Gemini, welcome to your reading. I've laid the cards already just to see if you want to stay around for the reading or not. There's an extraordinary number of court cards here, particularly kings and queens. Well, we've got lots represented here. It's very strange. I don't think I've ever seen a reading with that many. Anyway, which tells me that either you're busy with a lot of characters, or this is about kind of stepping into your own power somehow. The basis of the reading suggests strongly that it's about financial wealth and security, and so all these characters are turning up, or parts of yourself, to help you create that security. And it ends with a lovely but slightly complicated ending, which we will cap. So if you're interested in that, then I'm just going to dive in. So you, as the intern in your internal self, is turning up as the Page of Cups. Oh, Gemini and pink roses, because there's some right in front of me that I will show you later. Feeling very imaginative. So this is one of our first our court cards, the Page of Cups. So he's a youthful energy, obviously. Well, not obviously, but he is. It's a stage card. You can see that those two lines underneath between the boots and the floor and the sea rather, indicate that it's a stage card. I.e. he's on a stage, and what does that mean? Is it a phase, as it were, or something that you're the way you're viewing yourself perhaps this morning, that you see yourself as quite young? I think that might be what's going on. There's some part of you that you're wanting to grow up, as in literally not, to sort of rear it in a way. But he's a lovely character. He's got his kind of gorgeous tunic full of lotuses. He's staring at the fish, which indicates his imagination. Pages are messages. So maybe one of the things that could be happening here, crazy hair, is that you're getting messages from your imagination, or you've got some new imaginative ideas that you want to bring into fruition. I'm looking particularly at the red sleeves of his coat today, or his jacket, his undergarment. So there's some part of you internally that's very sort of is messaging you. Now it could be an inner child part of you that started to wake up and wants to have a bit of a conversation, or it could be one of those wonderful ideas that pops in from nowhere and starts to sort of wake up this whole cast of characters, which you'll understand in a minute when you see how many there are. This makes you act in the way of the hangman, i.e. maybe this is quite unusual to you, whoever's watching this, I don't want to kill a mozzie, but they're coming for me. Might be quite unusual for you to feel so imaginative, and or this message might be really unusual, because either way it's making you think in a completely new way, in a way that you haven't considered before, and it's feeling like a bit of an epiphany, because this chap here, the hangman, he lies like this, he hangs like this in order to gain epiphany. And we also, there's a little bit of a price to pay, because it's Odin, and when he was in this position for several days, he drops a coin out of his pocket, which is his payment. I'm looking at the blue rope. So what would your payment be? Is it that it's uncomfortable, and his red tights? That's interesting. They've both got red tights. So it does seem like part of that. Maybe this is what the message means, is that this youthful part of you that's either been buried for a long time or popping in for the first time and therefore feels youthful, is starting to grow up through this process of the hangman. There's a having to meditate on this energy, not having to, but wanting to, because it's so arresting, and it starts to sort of mature the energy somewhat into something that's got an element of enlightenment, which is really wonderful. Red tights, blue belt. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. The basis of the reading, we've got the King of Pentacles. So this is about your wealth. This is about your security in the world. It's about how you grow all the way up into a king who's in charge, you know, the kind of master of his universe. And particularly in this one, which I love so much, he is a very, very good custodian. He's very comfortable. He's got all those Victorian symbols of the bull around his throne, top and by the armrest. Look at all his grapes, indicating his great abilities and how they've come to fruit. He looks after everyone else, and I love how he's allowing nature to sort of crawl all over the scene, even though we're in a castle rampant. I never can work out whether we're just outside. No, I think we're inside at the moment. This is interesting. He's got his foot on something, and it's like a dragon's head. So to me, that feels like he's in touch with some sort of energetic understanding of nature, dragon's head, dragon's ley lines, or he has a fierce defensive ability to defend others. That's never come to me before. And because it's all about your stewardship of those that you're in charge of, the King of Pentacles. So maybe you've got quite a fierce ability to look after others, and maybe that's why you want this wealth and security. You keep your foot on it, as in metaphorically, you're not allowing it to sort of terrify everyone. But, oh, we've got a little bee. Maybe this should be for bee people too. Pink rose and bee. Oh no, I did also see a robin. I don't know what to put on it now. Anyway, so you're trying to become the kind of person that's so in charge of the resources and the ability to manage physical aspects of life, like the reality of life, that you can look after everyone else. And that's what this journey of growing that young page up is. And maybe you've had this fantastic idea, creative idea, and that could end up being something that you could pay for everyone else. There is a possibility. I'm going to hear something quite big in the woods behind me. I don't know what that is. In the recent past, we see you as the Eight of Swords. So this is the kind of self-victimized thought pattern. This is, she can actually wriggle quite easily out of all of these binds and remove herself and either get to the castle or run away from the castle, whatever she feels she's doing here. But she's sort of just resigned, stood there with all these kind of victimized thoughts. And because she becomes part of that row, she's seeing herself, I've never thought this before, but she's seeing herself as part of the problem. She's kind of attacking herself with these vicious thoughts. And she's blind and she's unable to act. So maybe that sense of frustration is what brought about the birth of this new part of yourself in response to it, that was imaginatively fighting with it. I don't know. Orange. I mean, there's so much passion. And orange to me also usually means community. So, because it's a very social colour, an enlivened colour, but then everything else is kind of, that's her dress obviously, and then everything else apart from the clay land, or the rich looking land. It's a bit like where I'm at, we've got very red soil here. So there's sort of hints at great passion, aren't there? Orange dress, very fertile looking land, and yet this sort of attitude of despair and giving in. So, however, that's in the recent past. One of our potential outcome is really interesting. Here we go. The King and Queen of Swords. They both came out together. So in relation to this kind of waking up and to this trying to build the wealth of the King of Pentacles, you might see yourself become incredibly logical. So Queen of Swords, known for being a bit sharp talking. She's the friend you'd go to if you had an issue and you really wanted to hear the truth. She doesn't sugarcoat things. She's incredibly intelligent. She's maybe a writer. She used to potentially be the kind of energy of the Queen of Cups, but that when she's pushed too far, she snaps and turns really, really tough. So we say she could be a divorcee, but interestingly, she's turning up with her partner. So that's strange that that's one of her identities. She has got her back to him. Was that how it was? Yeah, it was. So she has got her back to him. And he's like the ultimate CEO, very, very logical, tries to stay disconnected from his heart if at all possible, tries to make logical decisions. So between the two of them, they're sort of mastered these clouds that both of them have got their heads above. And that indicates sort of wrong, muddled thinking. What's going on with the trees here? They've both got a tree to one side of them. She's got two. And he's on a cliff edge and she's on some yellow, rather nondescript land. So there is a sort of sense of having to cope with quite a lot with these two. And but what I love is they both have butterflies. So she's got one at the base of her throne. She's wearing the clouds as if I've beaten this negative thinking. And he's got butterflies behind him, as in she's got them on her cape. And he's got butterflies behind him, and also two sort of fairy type characters or one here that is whispering in his ear. So they kind of suppress the natural whimsical side to themselves. But look, these are helpful allies if recently you've just been in a bit of a that mode, because they will just cut off all of those binds, all of those ties that the Eight of Wands thinks that they can't cope with. They're going to cut the combination of the two of them. There's going to be none of that negative thinking left at all, and you're going to rise above it, and you're not going to feel like a victim at all. So as a potential outcome, it's quite helpful. It's good to get into that kind of very clear thinking, and also if you're trying to build wealth, these two as strategists would be quite amazing to make a plan. Maybe you're making a plan. In the near future, we've got the Queen of Wands turning up, another court card, with her lovely black cat of intuition, with her sunny sunflowers of positivity. She doesn't look at us, she looks off to the side. She looks off to the same side as him. So it's almost like they've both got their eye on the same thing. So maybe what's happening here is that she is the one that you're employing, this creativity, to try and generate some sort of security for yourself. Some sort of fire has been lit to do that, because you've both got your eye on the same thing, both those parts. I love how there's some pyramids in the background. She's got her legs open, she's very unconventional. So you're employing a part of you that's unconventional. What can I see here? The green eyes of the cat, the lions looking in different directions. That's interesting. Two lions look outwards on her chair, and two behind her look towards each other. So it's sort of like you've got all aspects covered. I was listening to a friend of mine talking about football coaching the other day, and he said his friend, who's called Alf somebody, I can't remember, anyway, he's a great football coach apparently, like great, the greatest, works for sort of South American football teams and things. Maybe it was him that this knowledge came through. Anyway, they'd analysed tape of football players, and the ones that were super, super successful, when they've got the ball, sorry anyone who's a big football fan and doesn't, my terminology is wrong, they will look left and right, many, many, many times. Most footballers do one, two, but the really great players tend to be taking in information like 50 times more, and that's what those lions remind me of. They've got all aspects covered, and through that sort of micro observation of your environment, it gives you so much information. And then when you've done this thing like football over and over again, or whatever this creative pursuit or intuitive pursuit is, you can start to sort of have shortcuts to what that means. Okay, there's someone coming up here, that means I need to, and part of your body will click in to make the correct football response. But that, if that's to do with your intuition as well, I kind of feel that you're really on fire and you're becoming rather excellent, is the feeling here. And in your attitude, the Knight of Pentacles, another court card. We love the Knight of Pentacles. It's like you're fully committed to this, because he's so committed and steady, and he doesn't waver from his path. He does the hard work of looking after those around him, or in his actions he will be very consistent. He doesn't move very fast, but he's very, very determined in his movement towards his goal nonetheless, and thorough. Look at this giant Shire horse. And he looks very, very determined today. He's got a red glove and a red belt. Very, very optimistic, sunny background. So big Shire horse, red belt, these are the things that are standing out to me today. Determined face. So this is your attitude. Slow but steady wins the race. You're completely committed to this, growing this youthful, imaginative message. It could even be something that you've received in a dream or in your sleep, or from a strange, unusual place, quite unconventional. And then your environment, another court card. One where there's a lot of offerings of love. So it's the sort of step up from the Page of Cups. Now we're offering... I'm just going to move this around because I want you to get some of the sounds of nature as well, and I think it muffles them quite a lot. But anyway, maybe it won't work. So if this is in your environment, it's either someone who's helping you, or maybe this messenger was that in your internal world relates to some childlike part of yourself. No, I wonder, you might have a very, very good partner who helps, and his actions or her actions or their actions help you. Or in your environment there is a lot of talk of this kind of offering. So remember, your internal self was him. He was looking at the fish. The fish is now being worn by this character. So it's as if the idea is starting to settle in. The red fish now, that's turned from a blue fish in this illustration into a red fish on his armour. And he wants to bring that to his actions, these sort of knightly, romantic in sense of loving actions that you want to bring to other people. So I wonder whether the idea is starting to sort of take root and it's starting to sort of spread into your environment. You might have talked about it with others. Your hopes and fears, the 9 of Wands. Now, why you feel defensive at this stage, I'm not quite sure. Unless it's that you want to be the wounded healer, there's a fear that you're going to need to defend yourself. This idea is it's so good that it's going to attract attention. Is there stage? It's a stage. Like the Page of Cups was a stage. So this is a stage card. Is it that, oh, maybe that's it, I see. You're worried about defending this idea while it grows up, this part of you while it grows up. It's only a stage or a phase, a step in the journey, but you're worried that it's going to need to be protected while it's young, while it's growing still, before it becomes one of these kings and queens that we've got everywhere. So a feeling, maybe you've had this kind of idea squashed before, maybe it's not been happy when you've tried to work out of this kind of very imaginative... I hope you can hear that beautiful, beautiful bird that's singing. Maybe that part of you, that imaginative part of you, was very sort of free at some point, this kind of enamoured messenger. Maybe you're a writer or a poet or a singer, because that bird was singing when I said it before, and maybe you're feeling a bit defensive because it's been shut down or not taken seriously, or those self-victimizing thoughts of the Eight of Swords tend to squash it, and so you have to try to be defensive against your own self. But it does indicate that you've had an experience of being under attack somewhat, and you're frightened, and you hope that you have enough strength to become like the wounded healer, to become wise enough to defend adequately this thing that's growing in you, this youthful message that could grow into something really enlightened with the Hangman. Now, then the end of the whole reading, we suddenly have the King of Wands. So we've already got the Queen of Wands in your near future, and this is wonderful. You know, I've been looking at a little sort of lizard, salamander, gecko character over there while we've been talking. He's the king of the geckos. Look at them, they're all over him. And their protection, interestingly enough, for him. He's got one down there at the side. He turns up as if to say, you do grow. So you've got the King and Queen in one potential outcome, and now in your outcome, the King of Wands. You do grow into the sort of very creative, realised version of this project. However, it comes with the Four of Cups, which indicates there's some resistance to this. Because look, but I've got my 3 cups. Everything's perfect. I'm in I have everything I need. Do I really need to take on more? So there's some small part of you that is still resistant and doesn't want to take this amazing offer. And the King of Cups, the King of Wands is sort of looking at him as if to say, oh, come on, man. I suspect he'd win in the debate about whether or not he should be allowed to take his place. So you're slightly resistant to some massively successful entrepreneurial kind of energy that comes in at the end. We've definitely got to cap this. So let's have some comments, please, about what's going on here. What have we got? 2 cards. The Ace of Wands and the Knight. Yeah. I said right at the beginning, this idea, this page of cups could come from the Knight. I wonder whether that's your resistance because it comes from such a strange place. So the Knight in this card, this pack, is a bonus card. There's the night and the day, and then everything else is like the traditional 78 days. 78 days. 78 positions. But so the fact that the Knight's turned up, the Knight in the little précis in the book says this is a time when you can get extra things done. Well, it's a time to rest and kind of recalibrate, but also you can extend and do sort of important work in the night. So this fire, has it been lit in the night? Is that why you're dodgy about it? Does it feel unreal? Does it feel dreamlike still to you? Because the Ace of Torches is this incredible new creative idea that would ultimately grow to the King of Wands. So Ace of Torches, Ace of Wands. Sorry if I'm not making that clear. But the Knight, what's going on in this illustration? So we've got someone sitting in a tree. Part of the consciousness is sort of submerged in the watery realms of the night, of the unconscious. But another part of it is able to see from a great sort of height of the wisdom of this tree. So it's like there's a battle between those 2 parts. And it's interesting because he sits by a tree, doesn't he? So there is something about this. Your resistance is coming from the fact that it's kind of come from the night time, that it's informed by another world, but it's so deeply subconscious and imaginative, this idea, that you feel maybe that's why you're feeling so resistant to it, because we see the tree. You need to get up that tree and be like this character and accept the wisdom that's coming, even if it's from an unconventional source. Because it's a great idea. It's really lit you up. Okay, let's get some more comment. We've got the Lua Tarot here, the Nine of Wands, interestingly, which I never look at the bottom of the deck properly, but here we've got a version of the Nine of Wands again. This shows a very old man, so the opposite of your young inner page. So are you going to have to protect this idea for a long time? I don't know. Let's see. 2 cards again from this deck. We've got the Two of Cups and the Ten of Swords. So the Ten of Swords is when there's an ending. It's like the Death card. There's an ending that you accept, and it's actually got a lot of grace in it and a kind of lovely feeling, because you don't fight to make something work that stopped working. When you get the Ten of Swords, that's when you go, enough is enough, it's over. It's a sort of letting go, and because it's a letting go, there's this new dawn that comes. You can see the sun starting to come through the clouds. In fact, it seems to have, interestingly, in this, it's risen and it's now gone under some clouds, but the sun is there. And the Two of Cups. So have you partnered with this kind of idea before, and it hasn't worked? Is that what the issue is? You've partnered with this side of yourself before, and it hasn't worked, or you've had to let it go. Maybe there's an element of that, and therefore you feel a little bit resistant because you're worried that this is going to happen again, and you don't want to get your hopes up, something like that. Now I'm going to pull from the Shining Tribe Tarot, and this is very dense. I have got the book, but I don't want to make this reading too long. Oh, another 2 cards. So everything's coming in pairs again. So we've got King and Queen of Swords, King and Queen of Wands. We've got these 2s and 2s. Interesting, it's all coming out in 2. So is this something to do with a partner who resists this? Is this to do with, I mean, is your Page of Cups offering love, but trying to grow up the way you offer love? I'm not sure. So we've got the Awakening and the Place of Rivers. So the Awakening is the Judgment card, and it's really beautiful and optimistic here. And there is that sense, because we've got the Hangman here as well. I'm just going to quickly look at the book, because I want to just check what the little précis say, in case that... and what was the other card? The Place of Rivers. So the Knower of Rivers, the Speaker of Rivers, the Place of Rivers. So this card, meditation, quiet, inner peace, a chance to revitalise emotions through a time of withdrawal, an actual place where we can go to feel peaceful away from the pressures of our life. Okay, and there's a dragon. Do you remember that the King of Pentacles, who's really what this whole reading is about, has got his foot on a dragon's head? I'm going to show it to you again. There, that funny dragon's head. Now, there's a dragon line in this, and that's going to be important, I think. So, it's an inner world of peace and contemplation. We see a figure, who could be male or female, kneeling before a pool of dark water. This symbolises the unconscious. Now, we know that your ideas have come from the unconscious at night, okay? So this is very interesting. With its depths and mysteries, here 2 rivers of lighter water feed into this pool. When we enter this place, and we can do so simply by stopping our compulsive outward rush of attention and turning our attention inwards, like with the Hangman, we discover that how our actions and emotions, joyous and painful, all feed back into the mystery of our inner existence. This is a card of peace and discovery. Beyond the Forked River, we see a cave similar to the outer contours of the pool. That blue cave there, and it does feel like an echo of the outer contours of the pool. Water has no form but is bound into the shape of its containers. People who often enter these caves in order to turn their attention away from distractions and find a place within themselves that we call the Place of Rivers. Above the cave is a dolmen, symbolic of the entrance to the other world of the spirits. Oh, there's a really good documentary that I've just downloaded and haven't finished watching by Freddie Silver called Megaliths, that you can buy on Vimeo, and it's about ancient stone structures, which I absolutely love. And he was saying exactly that these dolmens aren't really places of burial, which people often say, but they're places of enlightenment. So that's interesting, isn't it? There's a sort of real stress on enlightenment in this reading, because we've got the Hangman as well. So something, and the Awakening now. And I think this documentary is going to end up on Gaia eventually, but if you want to see it now, you have to look him up. I'll put a link. People have often entered into their... it recalls the dolmen on the Hill of the Fool. In this place, we release ourselves from all the doubts and accumulation and confusions that accumulate around our pure inner selves. Because we are no longer the fool, we can retreat from the world and sit quietly and return to purity. On the other side of the pool from the meditator is the dragon. We see an outcropping of rocks in the form of a serpent or dragon. These myths of dragons could relate to energy lines that move in the earth. Ancient nomadic people may have followed such lines. And in the place of rivers, the energy pattern of the earth lies at rest. So maybe you've been woken up by some place in the world. I mean, you can hear those energy lines if you start to attune to them. And I think our ancient ancestors would have heard them. They would have known when they were on one. And it's very difficult if you live in a city or you're around lots of noise. But in the quiet of nature, and sometimes in churches, which are often built on them. So anyway, this idea of you can hear them. So maybe you've been woken up by that. Maybe you're dealing with that kind of topic, I'm not sure. It's really exciting. And there's a sense of retreat, which in order to recalibrate to your best self. But then there's all these punchy characters who are pushing you out into the world, all these kings and queens. Let's have a look at 20, the Awakening. Transformation, a moment, possibly an event that brings a life change that was built up over a long period of time, joining with others, responsibility. So yeah, this is the transformation, this is the growing up that we see here. The three celebrate the spirit who fills their world. Together they rise from the underworld. Here hope fulfills itself. This is a card of realization of the actual experience of seeing the world in a new way, of an action or a shift of perception that changes every detail in a person's life. Wow. The urban setting and the presence of a family imply community and responsibility to others. When we awaken, we understand our connections to the earth, to people around us, to our society, to the web of life breathing and sleeping and waking all across the world. So maybe that's where your resistance comes from with the Four of Cups, because you're becoming so grown up. It's such a sort of grown up energy, and there's a sense of responsibility for others. Maybe you're not quite grasping that yet. You still want to stay in the place of retreat. You don't really want to have to be this big grown-up character. Maybe there's an element of that. It's a huge role that you're taking on. Right, let's have a mystical moments. There we go. The Queen of Swords. So she's in your potential outcome. It's sort of counselling. If you can get a better bird's eye view and get quite kind of chilly and logical in the way that you see this situation, then you'll feel the peace of being on top of this big balloon and understand the whole situation. Maybe you feel that you've been meditating so long that you feel slightly in it, almost unable to see outside. Oh, I thought I had my one other pack. Let's see what's in here. Because there is one other pack which seems I've taken it out. No, there it is. I like to as I've bought these all over here, I like to use them all, and then we'll finish with a charm. So this is who was left in there? The Queen of Pentacles, another court card left with that one. The Queen of Pentacles, gosh, so everyone's got their partner. Wow. So she wasn't with the rest of her pack. So we got the King and Queen of Wands, the King and Queen of Swords, and now the King and Queen of Pentacles. So interestingly, you start with a cup, and those two don't turn up, but everybody else, this whisper of an idea is bringing, so this is saying your wealth is starting to be completed, your value. You will get to your because she's the bougie queen. She's, oh, that was the whole pack. She's totally appreciated by everyone. So that's what you're working towards, this growing up into a good custodian of wealth and those around you. Oh, and we've got Black Shuck. So he's a version of the devil. Let's have a look at the book. That's interesting. Why are you turning up? You're a whole new energy. Maybe there's some passion you need to apply. 13. The knowledge that time is finite, change, evolution, release the old to make way for the new, making peace with an ending. So you did have the 10 of Swords, didn't you? Where was that one? Did that go back in the pack? You had the 10 of Swords. I know you've just had the 10 of Swords. Oh, with the 2 of the Cups from the lure. So making peace with an ending. Is this about a new partnership? A new fruitful partnership? Maybe you have split with a soulmate, or even in the form of a workmate or something. But a few other of the beings that live in the forest are as fearsome as him. This is what it says, Black Shuck. For he is a portent of death. He's one of the spectral hounds who roam the earth, haunting the bleakest moors and the darkest forests. Blah, blah, blah. He won't harm you. He comes not to take your life, but as a memento mori, a reminder that death awaits you and life is not to be wasted. Okay, that's quite a harsh chat to your 4 of Cups. It's saying don't resist this transformation. It's big stuff, but you mustn't waste your life. Look into his fiery eyes. Let him know you understand his message. If you have courage, extend a cautious hand and feel his cool breath. He knows your scent. He will find you again. When he appears, take it as a sign that you need to prioritise what's important to you and release what no longer serves you. It rarely means physical death, but don't run away from this interpretation either. Sit with it for a while. All things pass in their proper time, and making friends with Black Shuck will lessen unwarranted fears. So maybe you have had an experience with death in the past that's left you a bit kind of stymied in life. You know, often when we have a lot of loss, not that I'm seeing it in this reading, but there's an element of resistance here that can be a bit like we just don't want things to change because things changed in a way that was frightening to us when we were too young to understand. Who's turning up for us here? A fairy. Could be an angel, but I think it's a fairy. It's saying listen to the fairies live in that forest with Black Shuck. It's saying listen to that. Listen to this. Do not waste this opportunity. There's some message that you're getting from a very youthful part of yourself that's very imaginative, and we need to grow it up, and it's worth doing because it gives such authority in the world. It's really lovely, and you know, think back onto this amazing awakening, this beautiful awakening that changes every aspect of your life. Don't resist it. Don't resist change, because it's going to be amazing for you and others, that card says. And there is this thing of the dragon lines. I hope someone out there relates to that, the dragon lines, because I love the idea of those ley lines. And maybe you've got some important work that you're hearing along the ley lines, that some messages or something about them that you want to bring out. But whatever it is, it's wonderful. See you again.